Jim Rohn says, formal education will give you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. What would you want to go for? Formal education, it's good. I'm not discouraging you from going for formal education, but there's something much more that you have to go for: self-education, and that is what gives you a fortune. Don't just look for a living, look for a fortune. Welcome for the Champions Chapter with me, Philmon Okwong.
It is not about worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Nelson Mandela said, there is no passion to be found.
But you have this moment.
I'm telling you, embrace it, because it's inevitable.
The Champions Chapter.
We're talking about formal education and also talking about self-education. But everything about that we are talking about is not how formal it is or how self it is. My topic today, I want to talk about the frustrated graduate. Educated but not learned. That many of us go for education thinking that the more we sit in our classes, sit in the classrooms, get the first grades, be the best students, and that's why the world will make us the best people. Sorry, I have to tell you something. Being the first in class won't make you the first in the world. The best classroom ever that you can ever have is the world, not just the four corners of the classroom. So there is more that you can do in this world. So who is a frustrated graduate? I would say I was once one. Philmon was once one, a frustrated graduate. The one who just went to school, thought by entering class, I've achieved everything in life. By getting the master's degree, getting the first class degree, thought that is all that I could get. The first in class doesn't mean you'll be the first in this world. What the world requires is much more different from what you get in class. So if you don't want to be a frustrated graduate, think about what the world expects from you, not just what the teachers, the professors, or anyone expects from you. When you go for a formal employment, they won't ask to say, were you the best in class? They want to know how much you deliver. So most graduates today get frustrated because of one thing. They believe the way they were the first in class, when you come up in the job market, they'll take them first. Things have changed. You end up being the frustrated graduate. So what do I mean by this? As much as you're in school, you go through your formal studies, you must have something that you want to do. You must have something that you want to do and get about. For example, you could be in the technology industry. You're a web developer. You work on your websites. Don't wait until the professors or your lecturer will teach you how to develop websites. It is something that requires skill. You can go ahead and learn on your own. That's what I call self-education. You could be an engineer. Don't wait until they take you for your practicals and whatsoever. Take time. Do something that you love. Put in some love in the knowledge that you want to acquire. Because, it's not all about marks. It's about performance at the end. The world always rewards results. I've always said that. So get ready for what the world demands. Why are graduates frustrated today? Because people are looking for the best schools. People are looking for the best universities. People are looking for the best professors. How about you look for the best in you? The best you can work about and acquire on your own. So if you only think about the best schools, I've already told you we don't have best schools, we have best individuals. Work on yourself and become the best of you. So don't just let it be about you. It's so exciting. I'm talking about frustrated graduates. Every time you go through school, especially let me talk about the high schools and you're in your advanced level, that's the time you choose your career in life. And you say, I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. It's okay. It's okay to want. You can want anything. But when it comes to real life, you have to work it out. When it comes to real life, you have to work it out. So what am I talking about here? Don't just want to be a doctor. Don't just want to be an engineer. Work towards it. So when you're in class, work towards being an engineer. Work towards being a doctor. And how are you going to work about it? By getting personally to learn what doctors do and having that personal passion of wanting to become a doctor. Remember, when you're young, you wanted to be a doctor. Who are you right now? You could be downtown selling clothes. You wanted to be an engineer. Where are you right now? You're seated somewhere as an accountant. Remember, you wanted to be a business person. You're somewhere working for somebody. It's still okay. But the question is, it is not at all related to what you thought you could be and who you are right now. So what are we celebrating? Do we celebrate what you're taught in class, or we celebrate what you're taught in this world? So we have two places where we have to learn from, not to be frustrated graduates. One, learning from the class or learning from the world. I keep telling people every day, the world is the best classroom ever. Because when you're in the world, when you fail, you learn something. But when you're in a class, when you fail, you're labeled a failure. The world never labels anyone a failure. When you fail in business, we call it loss. But you can work towards profit. When you fail in class, you're a failure. Actually, they number you. We always have the first and we have the last. So you have somewhere you belong. But in business, when you fail, it's either loss or a profit. And at the end of it all, you can come from a loss to a profit. Or there is a lesson you have to learn. Maybe I didn't handle this client well. That's how we learn in the business world. That's how we learn in the world classroom. That's all about it. So I want to speak to you, student. I want to speak to you. You may not be a student, but you're learning something in the world. Don't be a frustrated graduate. You know, who labels you frustrated? I don't think it's the world that labels you a frustrated person. It is your situation. It is your lifestyle. Remember, you wanted to be a pilot. Right now, what are you pushing? You could be riding a border. Anyway, you're still closer to a pilot because you're riding something. You're moving on. But it all ends up in the dream that has never been fulfilled. You don't got to be frustrated. Don't label it to yourself. Some of you have looked for jobs. I think they have all your application letters in almost every company. Every company has your name there. And they say, oh, we have Philmon's name here. We have Philmon's names here. But let me tell you, how about you sit down and say, what was I taught in class? But what can I do personally? I think that brings me to a point. Some of you go for good courses. You know, why are you frustrated? Because you go for good courses. I've always said this. There is a difference between good and right. Why? Not everything good could be right. What am I talking about here? You want to be a doctor. I want to do doctorate. I want to be an engineer. Are you getting all this point? You want to be. So, being a doctor is a good course. Being an engineer is a good profession. Being a doctor is a good profession. All that we can think about. But let me tell you, it could be good, but is it right for you? Are you fit for it? You know, every parent dreams, I want my child to be a doctor. I want my child to be an engineer. That's their dream. What is your personal dream? You went for good courses, but you're not good enough. So, don't fit your passion for football into doctorate. You could be a professional footballer. Hey, work towards being the best of a footballer. But if you want to be a doctor, work towards being the best of a doctor. So, don't look for the good businesses. Don't look for the good course. Look for the area where you fit in. You know, these days, especially the education profession, when you're entering the university, they always say, all those who go for education are always failures. They always say, not me. They may even think maybe they took you on government scholarship and all that, just because of the education aspect. But listen, we have people who purposely apply for education profession or the course. But we have people who find themselves doing education. Between the two, who will succeed in the world? The one who chooses to do the profession or the course, and the one who find themselves. So most people are frustrated because they find themselves into the world. You know, you find yourself into business. You find yourself into the course. You'll never make it when you find yourself there. But you'll always make it when you choose to be there. So if you never want to be frustrated, choose not to be frustrated by doing the things that you love. By doing the things you feel you fit in. I always tell people in this way. Find your world. Find your world. A world you can dominate. Find your world. A world you can freely do the things you want to do. That's your world. But most of you are not in the world. The worst day life, most of you that are watching right now, the worst days in your life is a Monday morning. Why is it a Monday morning? Because you're doing a job that you don't love. Why? Because you're not in your world. You're just doing it to earn a living. That gets us to the point where we started. You're just doing it to do what? To earn a living. How about, think about that job and you're doing it to earn a fortune. It's never in the job. It's in the things that you love doing. So, find your world. Find where you could be celebrated. Find where you could be appreciated. That's where you belong. That's where you choose to be. When you do the things you love, when you study the courses you love, you'll never be frustrated. You'll never be let down. Why? It's your passion. It's your inner drive taking you on because you're doing the things that you love. What is frustration anyway? We're talking about a frustrated graduate. What is frustration? Frustration is, how could I term it? Frustration is failure to meet your need, failure to meet a demand. Or let me say, frustration is failure to get your point of satisfaction. I would love that more. It's failure to get your point of satisfaction. And you don't do it well. What ends up into that? Frustration. So I want to speak to you there. Work towards your area of satisfaction. And when do you get satisfied? When you do the things you love. When you choose the courses that you love. When you don't let your parent just choose for you your career. But knowing the things that you want in the world, you'll achieve more from that. Don't allow to be frustrated. I'm still elaborating on something. Why some of you are frustrated and others are not. Now let's look at this scenario here. You're in a classroom. I'm talking about your classroom where you had your teachers. They've been teaching you some subjects. How many were you in that class? You could find you were 200. Others you were 150. Others you were 50 people. Those are just numbers. Very many people in their class. When you graduated, not all the 50 got jobs. Some of you didn't get jobs. And by the way, the most frustrating bit is here. You who used to be the first in class, as I said before, will not be the first person to get a job. The person used to be lower in class, maybe even the last, maybe the first person to succeed in that profession. So what does it tell us here? It's not what happens in the class. It's a personality. You know, it's funny how some of you later think, I used to be best in school. I used to be the best in school. I used to be the best in all the subjects. How come I'm not making it in this world? Some people are bewitching me. That's what you believe? I don't have the good luck. That's you, what do you think? Maybe God is against me. All that kind of thoughts may come in. Always watch people who are average in class, but active in the world. Those are the kind of people who succeed. Not people who work hard to have the best of papers. As I said before, not having a first grade in class will make you a first class citizen. Never. It's not about the transcript. There is something more. Don't go away. We're coming back for the Champions chapter. We want to see what next you can do with your transcript.
It is not about worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Nelson Mandela said, there is no passion to be found.
But you have this moment.
I'm telling you, embrace it because it's inevitable.
The Champions chapter.
You are never a representation of your papers. You're bigger than your papers. Let me tell you something. It's not what your teacher, your professor, or anyone told you out there. Whatsoever is written there as 80, 90, or whatever it is, those are just marks. For what is needed in class, those are just marks for the class, not marks for life. The only way you can acquire or get marks in the real world is when we see results. We have got to see some results. We have got to see your creativity. Those are the marks. We have got to see some, you know, if you're an engineer, we've got to see them structures you're working on. Those are the marks. So never label yourself a success or a failure based on what you see on your papers, your transcripts, your report card, as others call it. It's just a report about what happened in class, not a report about what happens in this world. Focus on what more happens in the world. That's who you are. So don't be limited. Straight forth. And you know, as I say, you don't need to be limited. There's something I have to tell you. There's something I've got to tell you. The world is willing and ready to make frustrated graduates in their classes success in the real world. The point I'm bringing is, if you fail in class, you still have a point. You still have a place where to succeed. The real world is waiting for you. You might not have been good in mathematics and all that, but when it comes to the real world, you could be a great salesperson. You may not have been a good scientist in the real world, in the classroom, but when you come out here, you could be a great, maybe, could I say, someone good at a technocrat, someone good at public speaking and whatsoever. So your world does not end in the classroom. Your world starts the moment you're out of the classroom. Think about it. You know, I want to relate a few things about the classroom and the real world. In the classroom, we have limited subjects. We could be having some few science subjects and few art subjects. But in the real world, we have unlimited subjects. You can do anything that you want. You can try this, fail, go on. The real world does not demote. You know, I've seen people who are demoted that, oh, she was the last. He was the last in class. And so you're not promoted. The world keeps promoting you. The world keeps telling you, go on for next. Try something else. You can do something much more better. If you're not good in this, you can do that. That's what we need to embrace in this real world. You'll never get frustrated. Look at all the successful people we look up to today actually are successful failures. I love to say that. Every successful person you look around is a successful failure. They failed until they succeeded. So the point is, in the real world, you can still fail in your business until you succeed in it. Fail one more time, give it another try, that you succeed. That's what the real world wants. So don't look at the frustration in the classroom. Look at the excellence, the effort that you're going to give to the real world. And most of you, something amazing about you. You get all your degrees, you get all your education, but the moment you get a job is the day your education becomes useless. Am I making some sense here? You have your transcript, you're educated, but the day you're employed is the day you stop being educated. Why? You say, that's all I wanted. That's all I thought I could get. So you only study that you may get a job. That's useless. You don't just study to get a job, you study to acquire knowledge. I have an experience. I remember in my master's class, I was doing an MBA, Master's in Business Administration. We had all kinds of people. But I believe the people who just came to get the master's degree certification so that they could retain their jobs, others so that they could get their jobs. But we had people who just came to acquire the business knowledge. Now, are you just going to get a certificate to get your job security? That's why we end up having corrupt officials. I'm sorry to say, the moment you just get your papers to retain or to get a job, you're corrupt. Why am I saying you're corrupt? You end up doing whatsoever you can do to retain that job. Because you'll always show, I have these papers. Let me tell you something. You can also go and print those papers and show somebody that this is what I acquired. So, the value of your education is not in the certification or the paper given to you. The value of your education is determined in your performance. Performance in the real world is what values your education. I want to talk to employers out there. I believe you don't look at just... let me talk to the employers out there. I believe today you only look at the papers. In your interviews, you want to ask for their certification, their credentials, how far they've gone with their studies. But let me tell you something. How about we change it this way around? That we employ people based on what they can do. During the interviews, we ask them, assuming you didn't go to school, could you still perform in this job? The moment they say yes, those are the kind of people you have to take up to. Don't look at their papers. Look at their performance. Perform at your best. So, what does it mean? Frustration dies the day we start doing something, becoming a doer in the things. So let's go much more deeper. As I said before, you have the transcripts. You've graduated. What next? This is what I want to tell you. What next? After you have all that, get out on the street. Once you have your papers, get out on the street, do something. If you're one who is looking for a job, hey, go look for a job, do something, serve somewhere. If you're one who wants to start a business, go and start. Listen to this. I want to tell you this. The day the gown will meet the street is the day real life starts. I have to say that again. The day the gown meets the street is the day real life starts. Is the day whether the street will test whether the gown has value. You know, the street tests whether the gown has value, whether the so-called university has value. The place that can really prove that is the street. So get out on the street. And you could be there saying, but Philmon, I didn't go to school. I don't have that degree. I don't have that certificate. You can still, it all happens on the street. You can still get back on the street, do something. Whatsoever we do out in the real world there, you can actually self-educate yourself. I know very good accountants who didn't go on an accounting class. They self-taught themselves some basics of accounting. I know some engineers, actually, the best mechanical engineers are people, I believe, who never entered class. But they've always been in that classroom learning. What is that classroom? Every day of their life, they've been doing something. You find them in the garage every day. You find some chefs every day in the kitchen. They're cooking. What do they learn from? They learn from experience. And I have this guy who has been in the university for 5 years, studying mechanical engineering. And you know what? When he comes out, he's so braggant that he's an engineer, but he has even never touched a grease or even a nut, or even never knows how to tighten the wheels of a car. It's good. They want to label you an engineer, but the real world doesn't know you. So do you want to be known by the world, or you want to be known by your classroom? Of course, these days we have very many doctors, but I'm talking about the medical doctor, your medical student. They're done with their medical studies, but trust me, they've never even entered a clinic, never even touched a syringe. All they're waiting for, I'm a medical doctor, so I have to be employed. But let me challenge you. How about if you got the skills, look for a nearby health center, a nearby maybe clinic, or even a hospital, and tell them, I've got the skill, I would like to serve. That's the kind of putting your knowledge at work, not just waiting for it to be employed. I need to delve more into that. Most people graduate because they're waiting for their papers to be employed. As much as their papers are not employed and not considered, they can do nothing. Let me tell you, put that paper aside and go and do something. Go and do something. Your skills are not attached to those papers. So don't perform because you were taught in school. Go perform because you learned something. That's why we're talking about educated but never learned. And there's some people here, you're watching this show, saying, you know what, at the end of it all, Philmon will give me a way forward. Now that I have the papers, I've graduated, I have the first class, let me tell you something. Sure, Philmon has a solution for you. And this word that I'm going to tell you will turn your world around. And the word is, go and meet the street. Go and do something. It's not just by listening what I'm telling you. It's going to put this, what you're being taught, into practice. So, frustration is when you're doing nothing. I've never seen a man who is frustrated and yet is doing something. So at the end of it all, doers get out something. Those who sit waiting, some of you are waiting for angels to tell you, oh, Philmon, I've got a job for you. Some of you are waiting for uncles. You're the people bringing corruption in this world, saying, you know what, these days we need technical know-how. No, it's technical know-how mostly. You may know somebody. How about if you can deliver? So focus so much to see that you can deliver. Your father could be the CEO of the company. What if you're not performing? Will your father still retain you? I want to talk to the parents. Don't just let your child, your daughter, your son only rely on the formal education. Only rely about the formal system. Go to school, get a job, marry and all that. There is more to that. Every graduate out there, go back to your villages, go back to the cities and look for problems in those cities and solve them with the knowledge you got from school. I remember way back when we were in school, we had people who cheat exams. They'd want to know, okay, what is the lecturer, what is the teacher going to set this time around? Some of you had the capacity, you had the connections, you would get the exam that were going to be set. And you emerged the best, not because you were the best, but you know what? You cheated life. You didn't cheat life. You cheated yourself. So the more you cheat in class, you're cheating yourself. But there is a place where you will never cheat. I know that place, and that is the real world. It's amazing. In this show, we don't give out certificates. All we do, we give you hints on how you can make it in life. Some of you will be saying, oh, Philmon, it has been great. And some of you could be saying, Philmon cheated and gave us some information on how to run life. Let me tell you, I haven't cheated anything. I haven't told you anything. The real life begins when you get out and do the practicals. When you get your hands dirty. When you get your head merged into reality. That's when you become a graduate with excellency. Join the conversation on our different links on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and always follow us on YouTube because there is more to practice in this world than just to listen. Thank you. You've been watching the Champions Chapter with me, Philmon Okwong.
It is not about worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Nelson Mandela said, there is no passion to be found.
But you have this moment.
I'm telling you, embrace it because it's inevitable.
The Champions Chapter.